Demetrius Pagortzis turned 19 while awaiting his first in-person court appearance since last May's massacre inside Santa Fe High School.
All seems close to impossible right now. Faust is hopeful they can do their jobs properly soon, without a virus as a distraction.
We are all here because of me today, of what I did.
Few things are more dangerous than a deadly weapon in the hands of an emotional teenager. Surrounded by peers, some feel invincible, leading to devastating consequences. Watch these teen school shooters react to their life sentences.
Are you a citizen of the United States?
Yes, sir.
Are you requesting consideration for a court-appointed attorney?
Yes, sir.
Are you out on bond for any other charge?
No, sir.
This first case involves a teenager who would go on to perpetrate one of the deadliest school shootings of all time. The depraved actions of 17-year-old Demetrius Pagortzis over a 25-minute period at the Santa Fe High School in Santa Fe, Texas, on the 18th of May 2018, which left 10 people dead, would shock the entire United States, and his reaction when faced with the court would baffle observers. The story of Demetrius Pagortzis' actions began on the 2nd of March 2018, 2 months before it actually happened. On that day, Pagortzis, born on the 12th of October 2000, logged on to an arms purchasing website and purchased 50 rounds of .38 special ammunition, as well as 105 rounds of 12-gauge shotgun ammunition. 2 weeks later, on March 13, 2018, Pagortzis ordered an additional round of shotgun ammunition and paid using an American Express gift card, using his real name and address for shipment but not specifying his age. Pagortzis was on the honor roll at his school and played on the school football team. However, he was regarded as quiet and was reportedly often bullied by fellow students and even coaches of the football team. This suggests that he may have been plotting his revenge with the purchase of those guns. Pagortzis would finally get his chance to strike in the early morning of May 18, 2018, when he suddenly began firing his weapon into an art class of unexpecting students at the school's art complex. As he began shooting, a staff member pulled a fire alarm which caused most of the school to evacuate, but those in the art classroom weren't so lucky. Pagortzis went on a manic spree, walking into one of the classrooms and shooting at a victim while singing a popular Queen song, Another One Bites the Dust, in between shots, then proceeding to shoot through the storage closet, where most of the art students had run to hide themselves in, with a shotgun. Pagortzis then briefly left the art room, which caused students to leave the closet and attempt to barricade the art room door. However, he returned and pushed the door open, and upon spotting a student he knew, he exclaimed, "Surprise!" and shot the student in the chest. Pagortzis' shooting spree would continue for 25 minutes until Santa Fe ISD police officers arrived at the scene to confront him. Rather than surrender, he exchanged fire with the police officers and critically wounded one of them. Pagortzis continued to fire rounds randomly, and even threatened to shoot more officers, which forced them to retaliate, injuring him in the process. He would eventually be arrested following his surrender due to the injury, and was detained as the police evacuated other students and staff from the art complex. At the end of his shooting exercise, Pagortzis had claimed the lives of 10 people, including 8 students and 2 teachers, as well as injuring a further 13 individuals. This makes the shooting the 8th deadliest school shooting in United States history. Following Pagortzis' arrest, various types of explosive devices and a Molotov cocktail were found in and around the school. During the investigations, a note from Pagortzis' journal suggests that not only did he want to commit the shooting, but he also wanted to commit suicide after the shooting, and had even planned on committing the act for some time. Pagortzis was handed 11 federal charges for the capital murder of 10 people and the aggravated assault against a public servant, and was held in custody without bail. If convicted, he faced a maximum sentence of 40 years to life, but due to his age, he was ineligible for the death penalty or a life sentence without parole. In June 2019, it was announced that the state trial for Pagortzis would take place in Richmond in January 2020. However, 4 months later, on the 4th of November 2019, he was found by 3 experts to be unfit to stand trial. On the 11th of February 2022, following a long mental health treatment while in custody at North Texas State Hospital, Pagortzis was again found incompetent to stand trial and was ordered to stay in the mental hospital for another 12 months. Pagortzis made an appearance in court in February 2019, where his attorney made a request for a change of venue, due to the publicity which the case had received. During the hearing, Pagortzis showed no emotions and stayed silent through the trial.
Demetrius Pagortzis turned 19 while awaiting his first in-person court appearance since last May's massacre inside Santa Fe High School.
His apparent lack of remorse was called out by a mother of one of the victims.
To see if I could see some remorse, and I didn't get it.
In a published statement, Pagortzis' family extended their condolences to the victims and thanked first responders for their assistance, while also admitting they were as shocked by the event as everyone else. The parents of two of the victims filed lawsuits against Pagortzis' parents with claims that his father didn't properly secure the murder weapons, which were revealed to belong to him, and that the parents were negligent in entrusting their son with the firearms. The trial is set for July 2024. Pagortzis, now 23, is currently in solitary confinement and is receiving treatment as he awaits the declaration of yet another court date to find out how long he's going to be incarcerated for. But Pagortzis isn't alone in this dark chapter of youth violence. Enter Gabe Parker.
16-year-old Gabriel Parker is accused of shooting and killing two of his classmates and injuring 14 others in the shooting back in January.
In the morning of January 23, 2018, as students of the Marshall County High School in Kentucky got ready for the start of classes, 15-year-old student Gabe Parker opened fire in an open area at the school, murdering two students and injuring 14 others. After he was caught, he was made to face the consequences of his actions, and his behavior in the court shocked everyone. Gabriel Ross Parker was born on the 3rd of March 2002 and grew up in a broken home, which culminated in his mother getting remarried to his stepfather. Despite this, he showed no true signs at home of being capable of violence, but sometimes the propensity to commit murder stays well hidden until the act is perpetrated. On the 23rd of January 2018, students of Parker's high school were gathering in the commons prior to the start of class, blissfully unaware of what was about to befall them. The then 15-year-old sophomore, Parker had gone to school that day with a Ruger handgun and an intent to commit murder. Parker had reportedly gone to the school's band room earlier to check with his friends before the shooting, to make sure they were not in the area before returning to begin his attack. Just before 8 a.m., Parker brought out his handgun in the commons area and emotionlessly opened fire at the unsuspecting students. In the process of fleeing, multiple students were struck by bullets while others were trampled on in the ensuing stampede. Two of the students, Bailey Nicole Holt and Preston Ryan Cope, who were both 15 years old, succumbed to their gunshot wounds while 18 others, including 5 girls and 13 boys. After the shooting, Parker discarded his weapon and ran to the weight room to hide with other students, who had been unaware he was the shooter and motioned for him to join them in hiding. However, one of the students who was hiding in the location recognized him as the shooter and alerted a teacher in the room about his identity. The teacher then called law enforcement. The Marshall County Sheriff from the Marshall County Sheriff's Department arrived a few minutes later and located Parker and arrested him shortly after. Following his arrest, Parker's bag was searched by police, and inside was a copy of the Communist Manifesto and a large Winchester sheath knife. Meanwhile, he had been brought in for interrogation to get to the root of his actions. During the interrogation, Parker expressed that he was an atheist and revealed his disillusioned views of life. Parker also indicated the shooting was an experiment to see how students and society would respond. Parker was eventually arraigned in Marshall County Circuit Court on the 16th of February, 2018 on charges of 2 counts of murder and 4 counts of first-degree assault, and he was to be tried as an adult due to the gravity of his crimes. Due to his age, Parker was ineligible for either the death penalty or life without parole, and according to Kentucky law, he also had to be eligible for parole after serving 25 years. He would plead guilty to the charges at a hearing on the 28th of April, 2020 in exchange for a plea bargain. As part of the plea offer, 6 of the assault charges were amended to assault in the second degree, Class C felonies. On the 12th of June 2020, an 18-year-old Gabe Parker was sentenced to 2 life terms plus 70 years, with the eligibility for parole after serving 20 years. After his sentence was read out, Parker showed no emotion and merely nodded to the announcement and let his attorney speak for him.
18-year-old inmate pled guilty to all 16 charges, including 2 counts of murder for the deaths of Bailey Holt and Preston Cope.
Some victims of the shooting recounted the horrific incident and the trauma it had caused them, while the parents of the victims were expectedly infuriated while recollecting their experience and agreed that Parker deserved the life sentence, even if some did admit that they were open to forgiving him in the future.
You're a sorry, low-life demon, piece of garbage, and I can't stand the sight of you, and you will never see the light of day again, and for that I'm grateful.
A civil lawsuit was filed against Parker's parents in 2019 by the parents of 4 of the victims of the shooting, including the 2 who sadly lost their lives. They were reportedly asked to be awarded $36.7 million in compensation, although that wouldn't be enough to bring back their kids. Parker, who is now 22 years old, is currently imprisoned at the North Point Training Center in Danville, Kentucky, and will be eligible for parole in June 2040 at the age of 38. Just when you think the horror ends there, enter Ethan Crumbley and his parents.
I am a really bad person. I have done terrible things that no one should ever do. I have lied, been not trustworthy. I've hurt many people, and that's what I've done.
On the 30th of November 2021, a 15-year-old Ethan Crumbley turned up at his high school in Oxford Township, Michigan, armed with a 9mm semi-automatic handgun and a strong will to kill. Around lunchtime, he would finally get his wish as he appeared from the school bathroom, then began to shoot at anyone he could see. The teenager would end up murdering 4 students and injuring 7 people more. Ethan Crumbley was born in Atlantic Beach, Florida on the 28th of April 2006 to parents Jennifer and James, both of whom had prior minor criminal records from 1995 to 2005 for DUI and check fraud. He reportedly had a troubled childhood, with his parents often abandoning him at home, which led to him being introverted, having few friends, and often exhibiting weird behaviors. Crumbley also reportedly videotaped himself torturing animals, once allegedly keeping a baby bird's head in a jar and placing it in the school bathroom. He also frequently talked about battling with demons. Despite his obvious troubles, his parents allegedly never sought therapy for him, and those problems would ultimately lead to the events of 30th November 2021. On that fateful day, Ethan Crumbley went to his Oxford High School with the intent to shoot it up. He had already hidden his semi-automatic gun away in the school the day prior, a gun his father had bought him just the previous Friday. Some school officials had raised suspicions of Ethan to his parents that very day due to his actions, which included searching for ammunition online and making sketches of himself committing a school shooting. However, this was not properly handled, and they would realize in the worst possible way. At around 12:51 p.m. on November 30th, 2021, Crumbley was spotted coming out of the school bathroom with his gun, which he had probably hidden in there. Immediately afterwards, he started firing sporadically in the hallway with hundreds of students passing through. When they began to flee, he slowly walked down the hallway and began shooting into classrooms and at anyone who was unable to escape before moving on to the next classroom. An intercom voiceover alerted students and teachers to an active shooter, and the teachers began locking and barricading doors and also covering windows. Due to the quick response by students and staff of the school, Crumbley was unable to actually enter any of the classrooms. Nevertheless, some students and staff weren't so lucky, as Crumbley had already claimed some victims. 3 students, 17-year-old Madison Baldwin, 16-year-old Tate Meyer, and 14-year-old Hannah St. Juliana were killed at the scene, and 8 other people, including a teacher, were injured. One of the injured students, 17-year-old Justin Schilling, would succumb to his injuries in hospital the following day. Law enforcement arrived at the scene only 3 minutes after the attack started, following a 911 call, and promptly arrested Crumbley, who still had 7 rounds of ammunition loaded into his gun and 2 15-round magazines, and took him in for questioning as investigations commenced. Crumbley's cell phone was revealed to contain 2 videos, both filmed the night before the incident, where he talked about his plans to shoot and kill students at the school the following day. He also had a journal where he reportedly detailed his desire to shoot up the school in a bid to get US President Biden impeached. Crumbley's parents had been at the school earlier that day following the reports of their son's behavior, and decided against taking him home despite being fully aware that he was in the possession of an unlocked gun. Following the investigations, Ethan was charged as an adult with terrorism resulting in death, 4 counts of first-degree murder, 7 counts of assault with intent to murder, as well as 12 counts of possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony. He would plead guilty to these charges at a hearing in October 2022. On the 3rd of December 2021, a prosecutor announced that both of Crumbley's parents were being charged with 4 counts of involuntary manslaughter for their failure to secure the gun he used during the shootings. On getting this information, his parents would bizarrely decide to flee the town and miss their first arraignment date before they were eventually caught, arrested, and charged the following day. On the 9th of December 2023, Crumbley was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole in what was a tense courtroom. Right before the sentencing, a remorseful Crumbley apologized to the courtroom and stated that he would accept whatever punishment was handed to him and aimed to do better. He even attempted to forgive his parents for their role in the murder.
Whatever sentence it is, I do plan to be better than I am. I don't know if you'll believe that, but records of 15, 20, 25 years can show that I will change.
The trial for Crumbley's parents was completed by the 14th of March 2024, with his dad and mom being sentenced to 10 years and 15 years in prison respectively. During the sentencing hearing, parents of the victims vehemently blamed Crumbley's parents for neglecting their responsibilities, which was what ultimately led to the deaths of their children. Crumbley's actions led to a series of copycat school shooting threats, which resulted in over 500 schools in Michigan and 6 other states being closed. Today, he is held at the Oaks Correctional Facility in Manistee, Michigan, as he has turned 18. His mother, Jennifer, is currently imprisoned in the Women's Huron Valley Correctional Facility, and his father, James, is in the Bellamy Creek Correctional Facility. Ethan Crumbley's case was shocking, but it's not the only one. Next, we turn to Devin Erickson and Alec Mckin, whose actions took school violence to another level. You won't believe what unfolded.
Defense painted Devin Erickson as a vulnerable child who got roped into Alec Mckin's plan.
He's not a monster, he's not a demon, and he's not evil.
The STEM School Highlands Ranch shooting was a school shooting that occurred on May 7, 2019, at STEM School Highlands Ranch in Highlands Ranch, Colorado. The incident resulted in the deaths of 1 student and injured 8 others. Alec Mckin and Devin Erickson, the shooters, were students at the school. On the day of the shooting, 16-year-old Alec Mckin and 18-year-old Devin Erickson arrived at STEM School Highlands Ranch with firearms concealed beneath their trench coats. They proceeded to walk towards a school entrance, where they opened fire on a group of students. Chaos erupted as students and teachers ran for their lives, seeking shelter and trying to escape the gunfire. After the shooting, once the suspects were located, they were promptly arrested and taken into custody. Alex Mckin and Devin Erickson faced multiple charges related to their involvement in the shooting. These charges included first-degree murder, attempted murder, conspiracy to commit murder, and illegal possession of firearms. Devin Erickson pleaded not guilty to the charges against him, while Alec Mckin decided to plead guilty to all 17 charges against him in a plea bargain. Alec agreed to testify against Devin at his trial as part of the deal. In May 2021, Devin went on trial. According to Devin's attorneys, he was not a monster, but a confused teenager. However, Alec took the stand as a prosecution witness and claimed that he and Devin had planned the mass shooting at their school for weeks before they committed the deadly act. Despite Devin's defense, he was found guilty on all charges and sentenced to life in prison plus an additional 1,282 years. Unlike previous teen shooters, Nikolas Cruz's violent mental health struggles led to unimaginable devastation.
17 medical examiners testified about what your bullets did to our children's bodies.
In 2018, the community of Parkland, Florida was rocked by a shocking act of violence. The Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School shooting left 17 people dead and countless others traumatized. Nikolas Cruz, the perpetrator, became a household name, sparking a fierce debate about gun control and mental health issues. Nikolas Cruz, born on September 24, 1998, was a troubled teenager with a history of disciplinary problems and mental health issues. He had a history of violent outbursts and had previously been expelled from Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School for disciplinary reasons. In February 2017, Nikolas Cruz purchased a Smith & Wesson M&P 15 assault-style rifle, which was used in the school shooting. He also had in his possession several additional firearms, including a shotgun and a handgun. It was obvious to anyone who looked at Nikolas's social media account that he was a deeply troubled young man. Nikolas shared his extremist views and wrote about his admiration for mass murderers like Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold, who committed the Columbine massacre. On February 14, 2018, Nikolas Cruz arrived at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School wearing a gas mask and carrying a backpack filled with ammunition. Armed with the Smith & Wesson M&P 15 rifle, he entered the building and proceeded to open fire on students and teachers. The shooting lasted for approximately 6 minutes, causing widespread panic and chaos within the school. Nikolas Cruz managed to kill 17 people and wounded more than a dozen others before he fled the scene. The victims were primarily students and teachers, ranging in age from 14 to 49 years old. Law enforcement agencies immediately launched an extensive investigation to determine the identity of the shooter. They analyzed security camera footage, interviewed witnesses, and scoured social media platforms for any leads. Within hours, they had identified Nikolas Cruz as the shooter and initiated an intense search to track him down. After the shooting, Nikolas Cruz was arrested and arraigned on 17 counts of first-degree murder. He was placed under 24-hour watch while in custody to ensure his safety. In the following months, additional charges were brought against him, including multiple counts of attempted murder. These charges stemmed from injuries sustained by individuals who were shot at but survived the incident. In July 2022, the trial of Nikolas Cruz began. The prosecution presented evidence showing that Nikolas Cruz had committed the mass shooting at Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School, fully aware of his actions. They argued that he had carefully planned and executed the deadly attack. The defense presented mitigating factors that aimed to persuade the jury to find Nikolas Cruz not guilty or opt for a lesser sentence. They highlighted his brain damage and other disabilities, arguing that these factors influenced his decision-making and lessened his culpability. After weeks of intense deliberation, the jurors returned with a verdict. They found Nikolas Cruz guilty on all counts. Jurors were uncertain if the mitigating factors presented by the defense outweighed the severity of the crime committed. As a result, they recommended a sentence of life imprisonment without the possibility of parole instead of the death penalty. In November 2022, Nikolas Cruz was formally sentenced to 34 consecutive sentences, one for each of the victims he murdered and wounded. During Nikolas Cruz's trial for the massacre at Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida, several victim impact statements were read aloud in court. These statements offered a glimpse into the pain, suffering, and profound impact that the school shooting had on the victims and their families.
I always have PTSD, depression, anxiety, suicidal ideations. Speaking of suicide, 3 students killed themselves because of what you did.
As we all know, the worst punishment in the state of Florida is the death penalty. How much worse would the crime have to be to warrant the death penalty?
As a teacher, I'm faced with making sure my classroom doors are secured and locked. I promise my learners that I will stand in front of them should something occur.
The chilling reality is that Nikolas Cruz is far from the only teenage mass shooter who has caused harm and devastation. In fact, the upcoming case is even more disturbing.
There is no place for you or your ignorant, hateful, and evil ideologies in a civilized society. You will never see the light of day as a free man ever again.
In 2022, Payton Gendron, an 18-year-old, carried out a tragic mass shooting in Buffalo, New York. This incident was yet another reminder of the devastating impact of gun violence on society. The shooting was motivated by hatred and was live-streamed on social media. Payton Gendron entered the supermarket armed with a semi-automatic rifle and tactical gear, targeting patrons who were primarily African American. His motive was rooted in hatred and ideologies. He published a 180-page manifesto online, outlining his plans and expressing his belief in the replacement theory, a far-right conspiracy theory. When Payton Gendron arrived at the Tops Friendly Market in the predominantly black neighborhood of Buffalo around 2:30 p.m., he began shooting customers both inside and outside the store. Police were alerted to the attack by an armed security guard who was shot in the encounter but survived. Upon the arrival of law enforcement, Payton surrendered to authorities without resistance. He was charged with first-degree murder. The authorities examined Payton Gendron's social media accounts and online activity. According to reports, he had frequented online forums known for promoting hate. It is believed that Payton was radicalized through these online platforms, which contributed to his motivation for the attack. Payton Gendron faced state and federal charges. He pleaded guilty to all the state charges and was sentenced to 11 life sentences without the possibility of parole. In addition to the murder charges, Payton was also convicted of 3 counts of attempted murder motivated by hate, criminal weapons possession, and domestic terrorism motivated by hate. Since the state does not have a death penalty, the most severe sentence he could receive was life without parole. However, Payton Gendron still faced federal charges for the shooting. Unlike New York, the federal government has the authority to impose the death penalty in certain instances. The federal prosecutors decided to seek the death penalty, citing several factors that led them to this decision. One of the main factors that weighed into the federal prosecutor's decision to seek the death penalty was Gendron's decision to target a supermarket in a predominantly black neighborhood. They argued that this choice demonstrated Gendron's intent to maximize the number of victims. The prosecutors also noted that Gendron's harmful beliefs and extensive planning were additional factors in their decision to pursue the most severe consequences. Payton Gendron's trial in the federal case is currently scheduled to begin in 2025. If you thought that was intense, just wait until you see the shocking reactions ahead. The drama escalates even more in our next video.